everybody. Welcome to a new episode of Redefining Society and Technology podcast. I need to change the title for you guys watching this, but because we ended up always talking about technology and society, I said, why not? Let's just put it in the title and let's get over with that. And it's always about one influencing the other more. It's even, or are we just, as Sean heard me say many times, about following blinking lights and funny noises, and so that technology drive us wherever we're going now, and we do things just because we can. I like to think that we're not, but I'm not 100% sure. So that's why we have these conversations. And today I have Sean that act as my co-host and guest.
Look at that. You invited me back. It's been a while.
I didn't invite you. You just say I'll show up, and you.
I heard he was going to be on. I'm like, I'm just going
to. All right. Well,
I love Rob.
The truth is that's the reason why Rob is here. So Rob is right in the middle here. If you're watching the show, if you're listening to it, it's in the middle. And Sean and Rob, they met at CyberSecurity event, and I've forbidden them to talk about cybersecurity today. But we're going to talk about artificially. I don't know if I'm able to do that, but we'll see. We'll see. Rob, I'm glad that you met Sean and that it didn't scare you. And then it said, hey, you should talk to Marco. And here you are. So welcome.
Glad to be here. Thank you, guys.
That's very good. So I would like to start with a little introduction about who you are, and kind of throw there that you work in cybersecurity, but you also especially an artificial intelligence expert. You participated in regulation for the European community, but also you wrote a book for kids called Luna and the Magic AI Paintbrush. And being also a person that writes kids' story, I was very fascinated by that. So we're going to talk about that as well. So let's start with you. Who is Rob?
Thank you. So, who's Rob? Rob is a computer nerd. Did computer science, studied AI. In the beginning of the 90s, I started in the AI industry, and I was there for 2 decades as a data scientist, a hacker, a programmer, a CEO for 9 years. And then I switched to software improvement group because I made so many mistakes in IT that I wanted to help companies try not to make the same mistakes. So I became a consultant and also did a lot of innovation around AI security and privacy in the company, helping organizations all around the world. And recently involved quite intensively in AI regulation. So I'm the co-editor of the AI Act security standard. And I also have founded the OWASP AI Exchange, which is a sort of an open source worldwide collaboration to help mobilize a group of experts to get these standards done in time. So that's me. And I wrote a children's book, but we'll get to that.
We'll get to that. Sean, how about we get to that? How about you met Rob and heard about the book and like, hey, that sounds like a good idea.
So Rob and I met at OWASP in Lisbon, and presentation there was amazing. If it's online and available, I encourage everybody to catch that. Rob, you speak all over the place. I'm sure there's different versions of that. Since I'm forbidden to speak about cybersecurity, I'll just say that morals and ethics matter, and cybersecurity feeds that. So if you're not building something that's going to function safely for people, you might not be doing the best thing for folks. So I think there's a lot of that, and you see that in the AI Act that you champion there, Rob. And so met Rob, great conversations, great presentations I've seen, kept in touch, and noted the book, and here we are.
And here we are indeed. Rob, why don't we start with that? Like you write all the legislation, you talk at high level with experts of all sorts, but you felt like maybe I should talk to kids. How'd that come?
Yeah, it started with an increased importance of talking about more than the technology, and instead talk about how we as humans adopt it and how do we collaborate with it. This was increasingly a theme with our clients. We help a lot of software engineering teams, and they increasingly started to use AI. And the most important topic to really help them with was how to not over-rely on it and how to not under-rely on AI. So to sort of to understand what it is and how you can best let it augment your workflows. And that has led me to write a couple of pieces on it, and those got a lot of traction. Some of them more than 100,000 views, which is to me quite extreme on LinkedIn. So it resonated. People want to talk about how to build a future with AI. And then Bessie Schenk from Seriously Simple Books approached me and said, I want to write books explaining technology to kids. And I know you from the field. How do you fancy being my expert and writing this book together? And I immediately said, yes, no negotiations whatsoever. I felt I need to do this because the kids from ages 4 to 8 in this case, they are forming their brains. They're forming their, the way they view the world. And it's, I think, an ideal moment to instill some ideas and thoughts. And it's not the heavy stuff, but it is showing that AI can make unexpected mistakes and how you can best collaborate with it. And we hope they pick it up. And this is, another way to try to make a difference to as many people as possible when it comes to AI.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I think Sean and I have been talking about this for a while. We've never been shy about the fact that we do use AI to help us in writing things. It doesn't mean that AI write things for us. They write it with us. It helps us to do things a little bit faster. But I think the core here of the story is the fact that there is a combination of the imagination of the girl that works with AI and is able to do things using the technical capabilities of AI, which for me, we could stop the podcast right here because I already said it all, but I'm sure you can elaborate that a little bit on the concept of using it the right way.
Yeah, I think there are many ways to use it. The wrong way to use it is to use it too much and use it to finish a complete task without you being involved. That's the wrong way. Compare this to driving a car that's almost autonomous, but makes serious mistakes in 1% of the cases. If you drive such a car, that's a very attractive thing to do because you can scroll on your phone and read your newspaper and whatever, eat your food in the car. It's attractive. But the problem is that you get lazy and you're not alert anymore. So you don't notice the mistakes. And the moment that you have to intervene, if you don't miss what's going wrong, you need the skills to intervene. You need to be able to drive the car, but you haven't been driving a car, so you lost those skills. And this is, I think, a good analogy with how we sometimes tend to use AI. Let it generate code, look at the code a little bit, think it will probably be fine, what could possibly go wrong, and then put it in production. Doing research and increasingly rely on the answers to be true. And we all know that they tend to not be true because of hallucinations, which are not side effects of generative AI, but are just part of the game. And when we over-rely, that's when there's problems. So the key is to strike the right balance between being completely uninvolved and not using AI at all. And that means dissecting your workflow, find the tasks that are boring to you, where you can apply AI, and keep the task where you add your ability to make great decisions and use your creativity and your understanding of what the end results should be. But that requires some effort. bringing down your workflow into a combination between you and the AI. But it is the best strategy.
And Sean, you raised something before we start recording about actually using AI without knowing that you're using AI. I think that's a problem. Well, you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I was just thinking all the places, and AI is not new, right? It's been in things for many decades, I believe. We just now see it as a tool with an interface in what many people know as ChatGPT. But it's been in many places, continues to expand in many more places. And it just struck me when talking about the book for kids. Now, I believe the book is specifically looking at using AI as a tool to create new things. But we have devices, we have phones, we have cars, we fly on planes that have AI. Many cases we don't know that we're using it. And what I want to touch on is this idea that, I mean, there's making ourselves more efficient, so automating our life and leveraging AI to help with some of those things, which you just described. And then in creation, it's about finding new things that maybe my brain, as one example, can't think of naturally, or maybe not fast enough, or in certain ways, and AI might open up things for me in that way. So in one sense, you want some guardrails, right? And in other cases, maybe you don't want the guardrails to see what come what may. But to your point, in both of those cases, whatever I choose to do with the results, I better know that I have a hand in what happens with it, right? Do I trust what it created? Do I trust the path that it took if it was an automated type of thing? And where I get a little concerned is when that's buried in another application or a device that I don't know exists or how it works, and therefore I'm blindly trusting the results of this stuff. So I've said a lot there, but that's kind of the thought process that I was going through with this.
Yeah, it is a concern. I agree. Some AI is integrated in such a way that it's not really a problem, like, for example, face recognition on your phone to get authenticated. Once we're looking at content that's generated by AI, there can be risks involved. And the AI Act is very clear about this. You need to be transparent about it. So it's if you are creating solutions and you have European users, the AI Act forces you to be transparent about that use. So that sort of addresses that problem, Sean, that you're pointing out. And it's very tempting for vendors not to do so. I've seen vendors with, for example, a remediation advice for software engineers generated by AI. And I noticed some mistakes, and they didn't put the disclaimer there. Because once you put the disclaimer there, you're actually saying, what you're reading here could be completely false. And that doesn't sell well. So it's, counter some business models to be transparent. And that's something, that we need regulations for.
And I know I interact quickly, Marco, that just there's a large retailer online that I might buy some things through and might need some support with some of those things on occasion. And it's clear, only because I'm thinking about it, that I'm interacting with an AI enabled bot. And I try to have fun with it. So I use specific language that I wouldn't necessarily use with a human person as I engage with them. But I'm very precise, and I use the same language over and over and over. And I haven't really seen it yet, but I'm expecting it to start to respond in a way that it in a similar language or tone that I'm engaging with it. So I haven't seen it quite yet, but I keep feeding it this this stuff to see. But to this point, they don't disclaim it. They don't disclose it that's there. But you can tell, and only until you actually connect with a real person does the.
Well, I guess if they call it a chatbot, Sean, that I don't know what the AI says about it, but in this case, I think if they call it a chatbot, it should be clear. But if it's a chat interface, that could as well be a human. That's actually against the European regulation.
Yeah, and I don't know that it actually. Well, it doesn't give it a name, so it's just an interface that you interact with, and then eventually a name is given if you head down a path that requires that. But and who knows? I sometimes feel that even the human one is being supported by AI. they're being fed the stuff to.
Well, I actually had the experience where I think that the AI was actually more human than the human itself. But no, I get the point. I mean, I think the disclosure it's very, very important, especially if we want to go back to the kids that interact with things and don't think that all of a sudden it's magic, right? But at the same time, I feel like, and I want your opinion on this, Rob, what's the difference between trying to teach these basics in a very simple language to a 7-8 years old kid versus trying to explain exactly the same thing to someone that has probably the same knowledge of AI of a kid, means they don't know anything about it, but is actually a well-formed brain that is used to do things in a certain way, see things in a certain way, an adult or a teenager. Do you think you need a different approach there?
No, and that has been demonstrated by the reactions that we got from guardians and people who were reading this book to kids. That they were the most enthusiastic. Kids, they benefit from it, but they can't see the perspective of how important it is for their development. They just say nice colors and funny story, and that's great because we want them to engage. But the people who read it to them, they really said, "Wow, yeah, this made me really see some good points in there." And sometimes when I do a training on AI, I include stills from the book to get the points across.
That's really cool. So give me some example of the things that you talk about in the book.
First of all, we didn't want to depict the AI as something with a soul, and people do that a lot in pictures, storybooks on AI. Nice pupils and smiles, but we didn't want to anthropomorphize it because that's already going on too much. We didn't want the kids to believe that it has a soul, and the AI is actually a paintbrush. Now, let me show it to you how we pictured it in the book. I have it right here. So Luna, the main character, wants to paint, and then she finds this paintbrush, this AI paintbrush. And she starts to paint, and it turns out that the painting has severe mistakes, and she doesn't notice, but her parents do. So that's lesson number one. It looks great. It looks really certain about what it's doing, but it can have mistakes. That's a really important thing to get across. Mistakes that you don't expect. And then the AI explains, listen, yeah, I'm just a machine. I'm not a person. I've seen a lot of pictures in my life. People trained me, and that's where I base my work on. And that's why I cannot paint a horse that's lying down, because I've actually never seen one. And then Luna realizes this and learns that the AI cannot read her mind and cannot understand what she wants, also because it is not human, although it appears human. And then she learns, and that's actually the morale, that she needs to stay at the helm and hold the paintbrush. And together they can make great results. But stay in control. That's, I think, the main message of the story. And the funny thing is that morale, or the way we wrote it down, was actually created by ChatGPT. So I fed the story into ChatGPT, and I said, listen, I want to get across that As a person, you need to stay at the helm when you create something with AI. And then ChatGPT figured, listen, you call this book Luna and the Magic AI Paintbrush. Why don't you make the whole point that the magic is not about the paintbrush, but the magic comes from Luna? And I had goosebumps when ChatGPT proposed this. I was not surprised by its creativity, but in this case, sort of ChatGPT, finishing the book, I think that was the icing on the cake. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that the picture you showed is a paintbrush and it has the AI label on it. To me, that demonstrates that you have different tools in life to do different things. And it could be a hammer, it could be a saw, it could be a guitar, right? And also have an AI label and create new things. So AI is in the tool, in the thing. And I love what you just said, that the magic comes from the person using the tool with the AI. I love it.
No.
Cool.
That's really cool. So on my side, I got to tell you that when I write the story, it's actually my mom. She writes the first draft, and then I get on it and I kind of help her. And she brings her 75 years old age past in it. So many stories are very traditional and very Tuscan and Italian in certain way. But because she deal with me quite a bit, she does story about robots, and she throw, science in there and technology. And when I feed it to AI, ChatGPT, say, hey, what do you think about this? This is for kids or the young adults. The target would be 8 to 14, let's say, but it's enjoyable from people of all age. And it's really good at finding the moral of the story. I share that with you because ultimately I think it's pretty much human. I mean, it's learn all the stories that have been written by us as human, and what's more important in a kid's story than trying to teach something that they can use.
It definitely has human abilities. It is not human, of course. It's made to appear human. When they train a large language model like ChatGPT or Copilot or Gemini, they use a technique called reinforcement learning from human feedback, which lets people pick the favorite answer. And then it learns how to make a favorite answer. And favorite answers are really confident and really human-like, really kind. And that's sells the best. But it sets the wrong expectations because you expect it to make mistakes like humans do, and it doesn't. And you expect it to have certain values and act like a human, an ally, but AI doesn't project everything that it's read about what is right and what is wrong on itself. It's not an entity in that sense, and therefore not a human, but you may expect it to. And if you expect it to, you tend to get disappointed, and it does things that you didn't expect. But indeed, it can do fantastic things.
I want to ask you this, Rob, because it's something that's been on my mind for, I don't know, maybe 8-9 years. When we started ITSPmagazine, one of the first things I wrote was around, we move into a world where everything is technologically driven, and we kind of leave behind a lot of the physical aspects of life. And at some point, they'll become nostalgic, and we want those things. And I hold that position because I find, and this is where I want your opinion, I feel that technology will lead us to the best answer. And that best answer will be what I call the common denominator. So it'll kind of narrow us down into what it thinks we want to hear. And that's where it leads us all the time. And we end up in this world where everything looks the same, everything sounds the same, everything smells, all that, whatever senses. And I'm afraid that it's not just a common denominator, but perhaps the lowest common denominator, depending on where society takes things. So I don't know, your thoughts on that.
It's already taking place, right? In the bubbles that algorithms create with selecting the content that we engage with the most, which is economically the best model, but society-wise not, because well, we got the internet and we got algorithms to help us select the information that we have indicated that we wanted the most. And it creates a situation where we can't agree on the simplest things, like who won the election, or should we get a vaccine or not. It's not helping our knowledge position, and it's creating bubbles. It's polarizing. So the common denominator that you mentioned, we have multiple of them, and they're all local optima, and polarizes society. Unfortunately, I do believe that, and we've seen it in the past, that technology adoption goes to some extremes, and then we take some steps back because we learned how things can go wrong, and we set some rules, sometimes by regulations, sometimes by culture. When we realize that a certain use of a mobile phone just is, you can't do that, but that is because we've learned that it has negative effects. And the same I predict to happen for that whole bubble effect, where algorithms will take more into account that it's important for people to step outside of their bubbles and to learn to see more. And the same goes for how we work with AI. For example, using AI to summarize online meetings. Some organizations say that is the biggest productivity gain from AI. Others have forbidden it because things can go really, really wrong. We need to find a way to work with this technology and set some guardrails, indeed, to make sure that we use it in a right way. Try things, learn from them, and then change it. And the most difficult things to change typically are the ones where there's a business model behind it. I mean, don't get me wrong. Big tech is bringing us these new innovations, which can make our lives greater. At the same time, they have a business model, and that can be counter to what is best for us humans. And we'll realize this step by step.
Yeah, I don't know how you guys interact with this, but me being Italian, English is not my first language, as people can tell. I welcome ChatGPT or any grammar corrector, but as a writer, I do not like when ChatGPT change the way I write. So it's always a battle between fix the grammar, and then I see that, and I usually say, tell me what you change, because I'm very protective about that. And then eventually I say, you know what, just fix the grammar. I don't want you to change that. So I feel like what I'm saying is, you keep that active role. You're still the one writing. You're getting an editor, and it may suggest you something that maybe you didn't see, which is kind of like the same thing that the Luna learns, that she needs to keep the prompt and imagine what she wants the brush to do, but also be able to say, you didn't do it the way I told you. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
your feedback on this, maybe on the way that you use AI, because I know you use it. So
yeah. I think the end of the book where Luna is holding the brush is an analogy for us finding the right way to work with the technology, like you found your way, saying just fix the grammar.
Yeah.
I'm also, and I think many of us are exploring this and finding ways to improve our writing, for example. Sometimes I'm really stunned how ChatGPT is able to make my writing a lot more clear. Mm-hmm. What I've done recently, I started to look into prompt engineering and to find out how I can set my own style as an example. And you can do that. So you can set up a prompt. It's more work. It's elaborate. But you can give some examples of your own writing style. And if you start with your own first draft and you ask it to improve it for clarity, I always say, don't change it too much. Use English for people for whom English is not their mother tongue, which makes it easier to read. So I have a couple of those instructions that I like to stay in there, and then I managed to stay authentic and improve structure and clarity, and of course grammar and spelling. Yeah. So it's about finding the right way to work with the technology, and it is complex. We haven't all learned this, me neither, because it's so new, and we're exploring our best way to interact.
Yeah. Sean, easy button, just do it.
I'm lazy. No, what I find, and I try to, I don't have a standard prompt that sets my style. So I just let it kind of go with some initial direction and see what it comes back with. And I find that I reprompt, giving it regular feedback until it sounds like me. And it says what I want it to say.
Good strategy.
Yeah. And yeah, I think it takes more time. So it's not reducing as much time as if I did it in a different way. But it's also not just limiting to that initial example. It's starting with its own creative juices, if you will, and then I'm tailoring it to what I really want it to say.
Well, I think this is a good example of what Sean you said at the beginning, and Rob, you reinforce is if we all do the things in the whatever perfect way, it's the common denominator that it just lowers our standard. And I give you an example. I was recording on my other show with a musician. He's a classical guitar player, and we were talking about what it means to be the standard, let's say, for playing classic guitar. And he said, well, if you think you're the standard, you're not doing it right, because you need to keep mistake in order to grow. And he was also bringing the example of somebody like Yo-Yo Ma playing the cello, which his whole life has been trying to be perfect. And then he realized, I need to be imperfect to be special. And I think that's a huge lesson that we need to apply when we use the technology. We need to retain our imperfection. Any comments?
That's a deep one.
Yeah. Also, you heard this yesterday, Marco. I'm gonna unplug it, but I mean,
yeah.
Now, granted, this is it's basically technology, right? It's a computer-controlled synthesizer, but it has its limits. So it is a box, right? So it is boxed, and it has its limits. But inside it, I can tweak it and adjust it, and if you turn this knob a little way and the other knob a little way, it sounds different than those knobs turn the opposite way. And the speed and the tone and everything I can get, and it's not perfect, right? What is perfect and what's imperfect? So there's so many dimensions inside there. And so I love music, so I'm always looking for that odd sound, something that sounds like maybe something I've heard before, but with my own unique spin on it. And so this is not AI, but it goes to the point that it has all that it needs to help me create something that's unique to me to share with others. So
but you need to break it.
Some people do break them.
No, you need to break it, meaning, you need to find that blue note, or you're not going to play the blues.
Yes, I need to make mistakes that may not, that some people may not put together that particular combination, but ultimately in the grand scheme of things, it may work in what I'm putting together.
Yeah, there are mistakes and there are mistakes. Some mistakes are beautiful, and that is because the model that defines what is perfect is actually looks perfect, but it's not the model for beauty. If you look at, for example, Stuart Copeland, the drummer of the Police, he changes tempo. Many drummers do this, but in such a way that you can't figure out how and why, and it doesn't follow any specific models that we have. It looks like a mistake. Ooh, he's slowing down, but there's actually beauty behind it. And the same goes for all art, including writing, where things that don't follow the rules, which you could call imperfections, are actually what makes it great.
Yep. Very
Yep.
true.
Yep.
Very true.
I was just thinking about that the other day. In fact, the
Yeah.
spirits in I can't remember the name of the song, the Spirit song, but very
Spirits in the material world.
Yes, it what it does is it draws you to that moment, that change, versus just letting the song roll. You kind of, at least for me, it pulls me. You're like, oh yeah, I'm listening to something really cool here.
All right, I guess after this I have to open one of the vinyl from the Police, because yesterday we were talking about Walking on the Moon.
We were.
Remember, Sean?
Yes.
So I think the lesson here is that you still need to know the rules if you want to break it. And I think I'm mentioning, quoting Picasso here, but it's like you can't just throw painting on the wall. You need to know how to paint, and then you can play around with it. I mean, Copland knows how to play the drums. He knows the music, and he's not just... But sometimes there could be something completely random that it creates something completely beautiful. And I don't think artificial intelligence think that way, because it try to follow certain rules. Who knows?
Yeah, that's I'm not certain. I do think that I do think so.
I'll be more direct. I disagree.
All right, bring it.
The thing is, so
you got 5 minutes to bring it.
It's interesting. So, what makes human imagination? Where is it different from AI? And at least I think we can agree that humans are the consumer of what is created, so they are more in touch with what is beautiful and what is needed than AI is. AI has to pick up some of the rules or the patterns from existing material. So if it picks up some patterns of drummers slowing down certain parts of a musical piece, it can really learn these rules that go beyond the theoretical models and create some of that beauty. Humans will be better at this, I think, because they are actually the consumers and more in touch with what people appreciate. But I don't think there's a real structural difference between the type of creativity between AI and humans. I know that's an unpopular opinion.
Question: do you think that if AI doesn't listen to that pattern from the Copland that you're talking about, will ever think to just slow down something? Or is it just doing it because it heard someone doing that, and so it copies a mistake and reproduce it? Something that the human did it on either purely by mistake or purely by imagination.
Yeah, I think it can sort of skip the mistakes and see the patterns in how humans play music, and it is mimicking. Right?
Yeah.
It is mimicking. It is not feeling it, and I think that's where the difference is. But it can mimic things pretty well.
And that's why I disagree, because for me, I want to feel it first. And a lot of times, Marco, I'm picking up the guitar, I'm messing around with this synthesizer. A lot of times, I'll start with not knowing anything, and I'll see what happens, and see what I can do and how far I can take it. And then I might look for examples, and for the guitar, for example, it might share, this is the way I suggest the strums to be put on the strings. And I'll try that. And I'm like, yeah, but if I do a pick here instead of a full strum, I might get a little different sound. So in that sense, I'm following an example and then tweaking it to my own. But 99% of the time, I like to lead with, I don't know what the rules are. What am I feeling, and what comes from that first, and then maybe shape and transition into something that or lean on an example of something that I know I like, right? So I'll feel it for myself first, and then listen to something else in the music example, and see if there's a way to mix the two things together.
Yeah. So, Rob, how about we finish this with a moral that you learn from Luna and writing Luna and the Magic AI Paintbrush, but that you would use to give a moral of the story to an adult? Like, would you use a different metaphor maybe to do that?
Control your natural tendency of working with AI. Take a step back and think about the long-term effects of what that natural tendency results in, which could be you losing your skills, which could be you over-relying and AI messing up really serious things in your life. Those are the risks that we talk about. Mm-hmm. So don't trust your instincts when you work with AI, because it has been shown that those instincts are typically wrong, partly because AI is designed to behave like a human, but it's actually alien. And because it's alien, we need to be more careful in how we embed it in our way of working, and take that step by step. And also listen to what others have learned instead of, messing up first and learn from that.
Nice. You don't need to hit the wall if I've been telling you there is a wall there, right?
Exactly.
All right. Well, this was a great conversation. I sure am glad that Sean brought Rob to the show. We talk actually about the things I love the most: music, storytelling, technology, and society, and looking into the future and getting a bit philosophical. So I'm happy. I hope you guys had a good time. And I do hope that the audience had a really good time too.
Yeah, fantastic. Good to see you, Rob. Always good chatting with you.
I loved it.
Get the mind going.
Let's make some music sometime.
Marco and I are looking at some ways to do that.
Yep.
Sitting in different places.
I just found out a little jam Shazam which we need to test. Music together. So there you go.
That'd be fun.
We got that. And then another thing, whenever you want to come back, Rob, and have another conversation about AI, I'm more than happy to have you back. This has been fantastic, and I really hope the audience enjoyed it. If you did, check the notes. There'll be linked to Rob links on LinkedIn and the book, of course. That'll be the link to that one as well. Sean, you know how to find it, so I'm not going to repeat it. And subscribe. There'll be many more conversations that I hope will let you with more questions than answers when we're done. Because questioning
gets you thinking.
It's important. It gets you thinking. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.